Welcome to GovCon Unscripted, where we dive into the unfiltered stories and strategies from all around the world of government contracting. Join host Chelsea Roberts as she explores how to navigate, thrive, and win in this complex but lucrative industry.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to GovCon Unscripted. I'm your host, Chelsea Roberts, and today I've got with us Rebecca Link, industry veteran and thought leader. Rebecca, who are you and what do you do?
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I've been in GovCon for almost 2 decades now, which is hard to say. And I've worn so many hats, and it's been such an exciting ride. Who am I? I try to be a vibrant personality in this ever-changing space, an advocate and champion for women in government contracting, an AI enthusiast and explorer. And currently I support a wonderful company called OneGlobe as their chief growth officer and account management. So yeah, I'm so excited to talk about all the things. I think it's going to be hard to nail down one topic, right? So much good content.
I love it. That's the exact kind of energy that we want here. So I'm thrilled for this conversation. You seem so excited about government contracting, which is not an energy that I find very often. So I'm curious, what got you into government contracting to begin with?
I do have an energy and like an excitement for it. I have the same story as most proposal professionals. No one woke up and decided what I'd like to do for the rest of my life. I do love proposals though. I am like one of those weird people. I like the hustle. I like the collaboration. I like the high stakes, but I'm the type of person that would run into a burning building, right? So if the building is on fire and people are standing there like, oh my God, the building's on fire. There's a couple different kinds of people, right? There's people that would like freeze. There's people that would probably run. And then there's people that are like, what needs to get done here? How can I help? How can I fix this? And I will run into the burning building. And so I think that it's a unique personality style that seems to do well in this space. I have a background in my bachelor's doing a lot of grant writing and nonprofit work. I love working with people. So it's always been about like people with disabilities, or like I think I did my capstone thesis on Habitat for Humanity and a project that was being worked on here in the DC area. So I took all of that and then found this world of proposal writing and learned how to do that. It's a different style of writing. And then also found that there's a whole management piece with managing proposal teams through proposal management, orals coaching, and just orals are probably one of my favorite aspects. And I was fortunate enough to mentor under an orals coach. So I know how to do that now. But as the years have gone on, I was so involved with APMP for so long, and it's such a wonderful association, but I've done all of those things now. And so now I'm at this place where I feel the excitement, right? I did have a moment. How old was I? I had a moment where I was like, what am I doing here? And like, how did I get here? Is this where I want to be? Is this where I'm going to stay? I still have those moments sometimes where I'm like, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up, but I do very much love this space. And I feel an immense sense of responsibility and dedication to giving back and to mentoring and to sharing knowledge, because this is not easy, right? None of it is easy. And I think especially over the last year or so, we've had so many unprecedented changes, and the government's shut down as we're speaking right now to some degree. I don't know. And it's a lot, right? And so I think also I've started to really try to blend in the mental health piece of this too. I was widowed 5 years ago with 2 very young children. My daughter was 18 months old, and surviving and thriving in this space is hard on a good day, right? So I think that we don't really look at each other as humans enough. I've really started to be more of an advocate for meeting people where they are and how they're showing up, and understanding that there is an entire person behind everything that we're doing and all the missions that we serve, whether it's partners, B2B or B2G. I think it's really important to start looking at the whole person from a totally holistic view. It's been a neat journey, right? I feel like I've climbed this staircase, and I'm super grateful for the relationships I have now and the ability to connect with other people.
I love that. I think that there's few people that can really manage all aspects of the proposal life cycle and all of the things that kind of come into play with that. You're talking about orals. I feel like a lot of people that do writing of proposals aren't often doing orals as well, because they're just such different dynamics, different areas of expertise that you've got to put to work. And if you're really good at writing things down and capturing value on paper, it's not necessarily going to translate as well. You've got to stand on a stage or stand in front of people and talk about it. How do you feel those two kind of different but parallel paths, how do they differ? How are they similar?
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing when you're looking at your team and if you want to go after orals work and things like that. A proposal manager, those folks come in different flavors too. You have people that are really good at managing the process, and you have people that maybe have a stronger writing background, or everybody has their own individual strengths and weaknesses that they bring to the table. Finding a proposal manager that is also an orals, not just can put together a slide deck, but that can coach a team through a
Right.
presentation, that's a very unique combination. And that's why you see some companies, if they've got pockets deep enough, they'll hire dedicated orals proposal people. I know GDIT does that quite often because they can be very different roles. So finding someone that does all of that is a unicorn position. But I think the key pieces are that with the slides and things like that, there's a lot of pictorial and graphical elements that are different. So you have to know how to convey messaging and points in a different visual format while also having the compliance and all that. I think coaching and working with a team of people is very difficult. It's fun though, don't get me wrong. I'm not poo-pooing this. I have lots of fun little things that I've been known to do when I coach teams, but I think that you have to be comfortable being in the spotlight and having the microphone, and you should be able to be thrown up on that stage because how else can you realistically tell people to go do that if you can't do it too? And being willing to have difficult conversations. Hey, how are things going? I've noticed this, and I think that we really need to work on X, Y, and Z all the way through, ma'am. You're going to have to remove some of those like 7 necklaces. We can't wear all of this jewelry. I've had conversations with people about all sorts of stuff. And the people that show up and they're like, oh, I've been presenting for years, and they're this old retired general person. And you never know who's going to be on those teams.
Right.
And so coaching looks different depending on who the presenters are too. So you have to really be able to shape shift. And that's something that needs to come naturally, I think, from a person, but also you need to train and mentor. I was fortunate enough to do a public speaking masterclass called Heroic Public Speaking. And it was so enlightening. They're coaching people who are like keynote presenters. They're teaching you all of the things. And you realize you're like cringing the whole time because you realize how many bad things you've done over the years. You're like, oh yeah, like I do that all the time. And I'm still guilty of it. But I think that you really need to do some actual training too to be effective in that space. And your typical day-to-day proposal manager is probably not going to be there unless you invest in them and they're interested in growing. But it's a unique combination to find in one person for sure.
Absolutely. And I feel like something you hit on really knocked it out of the park for me. There's different folks on different teams that are going to have differing abilities and differing levels of comfort and skill sets to be able to present. It really takes somebody who is comfortable talking to different groups of people, putting language into simpler, easier to understand terms. A lot of times I see companies just put engineers up on stage and okay, you are an expert at this stuff, the tech, all of these things. Now go up and shine brightly and let everyone know your knowledge first and foremost out front of everybody. They will all buy in and they will all be amazing. I've worked with engineers my entire life. My dad was an engineer and ran an engineering company. I found that public speaking is not something that generally comes naturally to engineers.
No.
And they oftentimes have a little bit of a struggle trying to simplify what they're trying to talk about and not like overly complicate things for people. If you've got a gift in public speaking and you're comfortable, you've got that ability to go talk to many crowds, you've learned that things need to be a little bit easier to digest from any member of the audience, whether it's an 8th grader, whether it's a senior professional from another company. I'm curious, who are the best folks that need the least coaching when they get up on stage?
It's so funny. As you were talking, I was thinking about all the different people that I've come across. And yes, engineers are a special breed.
Yes.
Just in general. And something that I'll add on too is that by the way that you show up, like the way I show up, really sets the tone and the energy and even affects the comfortability of the people that you work with.
Sure.
So if I am nervous or if I don't come across like confident and capable, then that's going to hurt even more. I have been surprised by the people that I've worked with. Because like I said, I have had people show up and they're like, I don't need you. I've done this for years, and they're the worst. They're the ones that I end up having to coach the most. They're messing up. They're forgetting like the points that they need to be making and like whatever. And then I've had just super sweet people that show up. They're like, I've never done this before. And they're the best because they're humble and they're open to feedback. And maybe that's what it is. I think it's a mindset, right? If you show up with some kind of attitude or pre-thought feelings about, I don't want to be here, I hate this, I already know what I'm doing, like any of these combinations of things. If you approach it with an open mind, hey, this could be fun. Let's see how good we can get this together. And that's the energy that I usually try to bring because it's contagious. But you're going to always have, especially like people that, like you said, engineers, and maybe I'm being stereotypical, high population of introverts over there. So yeah, they're not the people that are like, yeah, I would love to get on stage with a microphone in front of 100 people and talk about stuff. That's not them. How do you find that middle ground, or how do you at least for that hour that they have to participate, make it so they're not dying inside while they're doing it? But that's another thing too. Even when I get up on stage, I'm still dying inside. I feel like I might throw up. And I typically black out when I'm on the stage. I become like this Vanna White of a human. I do the things that I need to do or I'm supposed to do. And then I get off the stage and I'm like, what just came out of my mouth? I hope that was okay. I think that's what it is. You have to shut that part of your brain off to be like, these are just other people. I'm not going to die, or hopefully not going to die while I'm up here. It's not that big of a deal. Next month, you're going to be, oh yeah, I remember that 1 hour. We hype ourselves up. Orals is super fun and no one should be afraid. Everybody should come in with the fun mindset and it'll be fine.
I grew up in a program called 4-H, and it's typically known as an agricultural thing. And so I showed dogs my entire youth. And part of that was doing public speaking. Every year we had to give a presentation, and it was generally with a poster board. And it was like everybody had to pick their topic, and you had to go up and speak in front of people. And I was doing it since I could talk. My mom was a 4-H leader. She had me out there just putting me in front of people all the time to get really comfortable talking in front of groups of people and being judged by those people as well. So trying to get a blue ribbon every time I was having a public conversation or a public presentation with folks. And it was funny, the transition that I made from doing the typical poster board presentation into, I think my dad still probably to this day would like to say that I'm the first kid that ever brought a PowerPoint in to actually give a virtual presentation using PowerPoint and like a clicker and all these things. So that was such a dynamic shift in the way that people viewed me, the way they saw the presentation. It was more engaging. It was like, oh, okay, I'm looking at words that are changing on a screen. It's not just a pointer and a poster board. So it was a really big change at the time. And I make myself feel so old by saying that. But in this day and age, like things are changing so fast in the way that you can present different types of information. Yeah. I'm curious, are people still killing people with PowerPoints, or has that changed?
Yeah, I feel like PowerPoints are always going to be a thing. There's lots of cool tools and the ability to have much better visualizations. I'm not in marketing or anything, but I feel like a lot of those folks know a lot better tools than I do. But I use Canva. Love Canva for everything. So I think you need this vehicle to transmit that information. We use a tool called Mural, and Mural is a virtual whiteboard. You can do so much in it where you can just develop huge ecosystems of information. You can invite other people in to collaborate. It's very cool. So it's a little more interactive than a static PowerPoint thing. Have them follow you through the mural board and you can take them on this kind of visual journey. I think that there's always going to need to be visual components. We're multimodal learners, most of us. Some of us need to hear and listen more. So I do think PowerPoint's going to be around, but I think orals is definitely something I had predicted, especially with the influx and rise of AI, that we would be seeing a lot more oral requirements or demonstrations to some degree because AI is being used. I'm not knocking it because I use it every day, but I think that you can't AI an oral presentation. That'd be weird, right? Just have a whole bunch of computer generated people. But yeah, I think that's going to be really important. And along with those presentations come some PowerPoint slides too.
You just nailed and hit on the next point I was going to bring up and have a conversation about. AI has really flipped the proposal writing game on its head. There's no longer a need for 5, 10 people proposal teams to be able to kick something over in 5 days. You can do the same with a well-trained AI tool in an hour and a half. And it's really started to change the way that people view written content. And when we talk about getting into the position of being recognized for your actual skill sets, your actual talent, the things that you bring to the table, not just having a great way to prompt an AI tool, orals is the only way to get at that real, true level of talent. But I'm curious, have you seen any presentations that have been put together that were possibly done leveraging AI, and then people show up and it's, oh, okay, they're reading off the slides, or they didn't quite prepare because they were like, this is all done by AI. I don't really need to do anything except for show up.
Yeah. And I think you were spot on the words that you used. You were like, well trained, right? Yeah. I think that's where we're seeing most of the breakdown with people leveraging AI, is that they are not training their models in appropriate ways, or they are not editing their outputs enough to circumvent the AI look and feel of things. And then you're talking about just crappy presentation where someone's reading from a PowerPoint slide. But I use AI to build almost everything these days. Yeah. However, I have put an exorbitant amount of time, effort, and energy into building and training out my GPTs and my models to perform in the ways that I need and want them to, hopefully minimal rework and editing. I still obviously have to do that too. And we've all heard this, the garbage out, but it's not something just going to solve all your problems. It's a tool in your toolbox. I'm sure everyone's using AI to build stuff out. I think what you described is somebody that is just maybe disconnected from the content that they're presenting. And that's regardless of whether it's AI or not. You can build an entire presentation using AI and be very familiar and comfortable with the content and present it well from an educated and enthusiastic standpoint. That's like the best. That's what we're going for. So I think that using AI is certainly not a bad thing. It's falling apart when we have people that are failing to do it in an efficient, effective, and sometimes even ethical way. That's the other fear and concern. You can have something generated for you, but is it factually correct? Or if you're using it from a corporate standpoint, can your team and your company actually perform that work? You can't just use it. I don't particularly get presented to. We're usually the ones doing the presentation. So I can't think of an instance where I've seen blatant misuse, but I have sat in some pretty boring webinars and stuff before.
Yeah. I'm curious, what are you feeling like the best uses of AI are at this point in time? I know that things are rapidly changing and everyone's adapting at different paces, but I've seen a lot of PM dashes.
Yeah, that's like a telltale output from ChatGPT. But I think everybody is on their own AI journey, right? I think the important thing is that you're somewhere in that journey and that you're continuing moving forward. It was funny. We have a whole AI channel in our Slack, and some of the devs were talking and they were like, does anybody feel like they're in this AI race and we're jogging slowly with a laptop and it's just so hard to keep up with? But I don't think the answer is in trying to keep up, because that's impossible. There's new models and versions and platforms and things happening all the time. I think that it's just important that you are continuously learning, right? You're using it to some degree. And so to answer your question, it's different where people are, right? Because some organizations are still very much trying to figure out what's best for them. And I think, fortunately, I do think we've gotten to a point in time where organizations realize that they can't just go and choose something. You have to figure out who your internal users are going to be, when they're going to be using it, how they're allowed to use it, where are the guardrails with that, how will this be governed, where does compliance fall within this, and what does success look like, or what are your KPIs and metrics and benchmarks for being successful using these tools before you go and invest in something to bring. And I'm talking from like a business standpoint. What you and I choose to use in our own personal lives is the difference between whether you like Coke or Pepsi, right? And everybody uses AI for different things. I use it quite a bit for LinkedIn these days. I don't have time, nor am I going to sit down and spend all that time generating all that content all the time for LinkedIn posts. And so I have built a GPT that helps me. And so it's got the tone, it's got all the things that I need and don't want baked into it. So it's very helpful in that regard. But in the business aspect, I think that it's important that you're doing something, do something. That's what my motto is always, just let's do something. There's something that can be done. And that you're learning. And there's so many free courses out there now where you can take like a prompt engineering course or just an AI 101, like what's under the hood kind of thing, to learn the difference between like machine learning and neural networks and all that stuff. And I think that's where people should be focused. But everybody's in a very different place. And I think at the end of the day, it all comes back to and boils down to data and what data sets do you plan to work with? And before you get started, is that clean and ready for how you're planning on leveraging this tool, whether it's LinkedIn content or whether you're writing an RFI? Do you have a structured data and instructions and prompts built to make sure that it's going to perform as close as possible to your expectations? And that takes time and it takes effort, training and understanding from somebody on your team or whatever to make sure that's efficient. I think that we all need to be leveraging it at some point. I don't know about other companies, but I know for us, I've heard chatted with some friends, but it has been just death by RFI, especially last year with all the changes in the government and like the approvals and dollar thresholds to get procurements out the door and stuff. I think we've seen the government really start to do a lot of market research and try to figure out what their ability or capabilities are from industry. And those have been aggressive and they're a huge time suck for a growth team because it's pulling us away from other activities. There's no dollars theoretically attached to this. The government was just performing research. And of course, we want to be helpful and we want to get our name and our brand out there. But oh my gosh, we can only do so much. So at this point, I think that everybody should really be somewhere close to having something that can support with RFIs or capability statements and things like that at the very bare minimum. I think that's like mandatory. If your organization does not have some sort of automated capability to support with that, then you need to call me. We could try to help. Beyond that's when you're looking to maybe start to craft proposal writing, like true competitive proposal writing, and maybe help it on our side of the house with business development and capture. It's so helpful to research companies or research our accounts and our customers and help make connections or understand mission goals and outcomes and things from a research standpoint too. If you know how to Google, I don't mean to water that down and compare it to Google, but if you know how to do basic research, then you can go. And I think the key is to play around. I've always been an advocate for just going and messing around. Chat is free. Claude is free. There are free versions of everything. Just go and start messing around. And it almost teaches you through the exercises how to ask questions better. Or if I do this, oh, I see it does that. So I don't want to do that, or I'm going to do this differently next time. But the research and being able to connect dots, and we use it now because I love it so much. You shouldn't have got me talking about AI, but we use GPT for Teams, which is like the mid-level business version. Yeah. And so you have the ability to build and design custom GPTs. And then you also have project sites, which I have found are super awesome. So if I'm researching an account or a customer, or if I want just a dedicated workspace to work on a proposal or something like that, I can stand up a project site. I can upload files. I can give it instructions. It's just like a mini, like a dedicated space, but it's super effective. And so I think once you have some basic foundational skills of using a tool like this, then you can start to really mature it out. And then you find all these neat use cases for how it can support your entire team.
I personally have found tools like GPT or Claude or any of the other variants, Gemini even, so much potential that ultimately is up to you to be able to leverage effectively. It takes a lot of beginner's mind to come into it with that curiosity without putting expectations onto it before you actually figure out what it's going to be really valuable for, where you're going to find the most benefit, and ultimately what it's going to be useful for from that perspective. It's definitely an interesting realm in that regard, that you've got to be focused on how to best use it and trial and error in an effective and ethical way. That's probably one of the biggest things, making sure that it's not being overly used for things that are going to be published that haven't had any sort of review and things like that, because it can ultimately be a tool that is good and bad about it. But ultimately, if you are coming into it with that openness and that genuine curiosity that it takes to be able to leverage some of these things, then you're putting yourself into a better position to not only grow and learn and get more comfortable with the tools that are available to you, but you're starting that journey in a way that's going to help you be successful down the road.
Yeah. And there's
I
no
think you're
reason
spot
to
on.
have the fear that I think a lot of people have. There's no reason to have that fear anymore. You can select to not have it use any of your data for training. And the version that we use is totally secure. We can API our SharePoint straight into it. And I think that was a big concern initially. It was like, is our data safe in there? Still wouldn't recommend going and dropping your credit card number and social security number in there. For what we're using it for on a day-to-day basis, I think the fear should have dissipated by now. It's funny to tie it into the orals thing. I think it really is how you show up, right? If you're showing up like, I hate this, I don't want to use it, and you have that negativity or resistance, then I think that's going to prohibit you from growing in the ways that you need to, because it's not going anywhere. And I think it's our responsibility to keep up with all these things that are changing, especially if you're in government contracting, because, the government is going to be pushing. They're very much still on their data journey right now, discovering data sources, and they have this lofty vision of a data mesh one day, but they're still very much dealing with unstructured data in a lot of ways to get to the place where we've got it so good over here. If you have a dedicated SharePoint site for training material for chat, then bounds ahead of what the government wants to do. But we're talking about a massive, right? Like any agency, IRS, taxpayer personal identifiable information. Same with CMS, HHS, like the data that we're talking about is on a totally different level. So I think it's going to take some time. And that's why I can't stress enough that it really does matter so very much that you take the time on the front end to make sure that what you're going to be working with is as clean and structured as possible. And the government will get there one day. We just need to be champions to help them too. So I think it's our responsibility to share that knowledge as much as possible.
Absolutely. And you hit on that point just perfectly. We have to be aware that the government can't act at the speed that every other organization or an individual can. They will take their time to get comfortable, to get familiar, to figure out the best way to utilize these tools. As industry and as support for industry, it's incumbent upon us to be that sort of resource for them as they go, to be there to support them as they are making that transition, and to recognize that change is hard for everybody, right? No one's sitting here just change everything that I do and make it harder for me to figure out how to do my job on every day until I figure it out and it gets easier. Everyone has a little bit of a hesitation when it comes to major change being implemented. So I think as we're seeing a lot of these changes and a lot of the things that were instated in 2025, as those start to take shape and really draw some attention in 26, those who are there to support that change management and that transition into new ways of working and to support the new way of business with the government are going to be the ones that really end up ahead.
Absolutely. We have to talk about that shirt though.
Oh gosh. Yeah, so I don't know, audience may be able to see it or not. My shirt says Mansplaining Survivor.
Tips for that?
Yeah, there must be, especially within the industry that we're in. I think that they will probably begin to crop up more and more, but it just goes along with my sense of humor in this industry.
I love it. It's like being a woman in GovCon is real. And so I think that for me, this is what I've always said, I try to be like a payday bar. Do you know, like the candy bar payday?
Yeah.
It's like the right combination of sweet and salty.
Ooh, I love that.
So I should get a shirt too. So I have a cool shirt But I think being a woman in GovCon is a whole thing. And I love that there are so many female crusaders out there. And we'd run out of time if I was naming all of them. But I love that there is a network of very strong and vocal women, at least in my network. And I like going on LinkedIn and seeing their posts and how they're interacting and the space that they've taken up and created for all of us. It's funny, especially in proposals, it's a very female heavy profession. There's lots of statistics and reports about the amount of proposal managers that are female. Growing up in that space, I have a very natural drive for leadership and growth. As the years have gone on, I feel like I've literally clawed my way. Sometimes I've taken risks, haven't panned out. I burned a couple of bridges. We all have stories. I have this excitement and a passion, and I really bring that wherever I go. The whole mansplaining thing, women have that energy, are not always warmly embraced or welcomed. I know the energy that I show up with, but I'm not unapproachable. And I'm also humble enough. I have that sweet side too. And I'm overly empathetic. It's funny, the owner of my company and I right now, we are such a good team and we get along so well. We are polar opposite people. And frankly, I don't know how the man deals with me. We have this ability to talk. He's an engineer, by the way. We have this ability to talk to one another, even though we have very differing personality styles. And the respect that I know that I have and the support that I have is awesome. And I think that we need to be like that more with each other. And I think that women need to feel safer and more secure to come into leadership roles, to come into industry days that are full of men in uniforms and maybe a few females here and there, and not feel intimidated or like they don't belong in that space. And it took me a while, and I still get that way. I have horrible imposter syndrome a lot of the time. And so sometimes I feel funny saying, hey, don't do that. Don't be like that, when I also am like that sometimes. But I really just want to take a minute and recognize the work and the challenges that women in this space navigate. I've had men say some wild stuff to me before. We were on a call one time and this guy, I was like, I've got an idea. And he was like, oh yeah, let's let Rebecca talk. It would be good to get a woman's perspective. And I was like, or the fact that I have multiple degrees and certifications and that I've been doing this for a really fucking long time. But sure, yeah. So, oh my goodness. We've seen it all. Do you have advice or words of wisdom that you would give to women that are trying to come up in this space? Hosting a podcast, I have a lot of respect for you because that scares the hell out of me. I don't know if I would want to be a podcast host. I feel like somebody would come for me in the comments or something and it would hurt my feelings and I'd cry. I'm a crier. Oh my God, I'm such a crier. Everything makes me cry. So I don't know how you do it. You must have really thick skin.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a crier too. Just like that's just really mean unnecessarily. But I think from my perspective, there are so many more women in this industry than there ever were in my past. Realizing that there are more and more women coming into the industry and that ultimately the perspective and the viewpoint is more and more appreciated and people are getting a better sense for, okay, this is how we work together as two different genders and this is how we show each other respect. It's not an instant overnight change. So I think that oftentimes it's really not intentional that men just go out of their way to be a little cringe. It's not like they're intentionally trying to mansplain, but sometimes it comes across that way. And just realizing that they're not doing it on purpose most of the time. And they're ultimately just trying to figure out the best ways to convey the information that they like to convey. It's just bearing with that and recognizing that they're a special group of people too. And sometimes the ideas just need to be theirs for them to be able and willing to accept that it is a valid and useful idea. So I've learned to maneuver around it quite a bit, but with a lot of my outfit choices, I have to keep a sense of humor because I feel like it's so necessary.
I love it. And I think also another thing too is like so many of the women in this space are working moms too.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I'm like, do you realize what I do in a day? Do you have any idea what type of superhuman I am?
Yep.
I think that there's a whole demographic there too, where they called school off again today. And so it's constantly having to juggle and shift and whatever.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
A lot of
but
jobs.
they're at camp now. So I feel like they've been home all week. And so they're at like a snow day camp today. And it's
Oh, I
nice and
love that.
quiet here. And I'm like, oh, this is so nice.
Finally, can
Like,
breathe.
gosh.
Yeah.
It was fun because like we had the snowstorm. Everybody was excited. We went shopping and we bought snacks and we were going to watch movies. And I was like that fun mom for 3 hours. And then I was like, get away from me. They're like, we're going to build snowmen and make popcorn and hot chocolate. You're the fun mom for a little bit, and that's okay.
And then it's back to reality. It's, yes, I do
That's
still have a
right.
job to do, and
I
usually I can do
know.
it.
Routines are real. And like we're
Yeah.
all struggling over here right now with no routines.
Yeah.
Too funny.
Oh my gosh, this has been a fantastic conversation. I'm sure that there are going to be a lot of people out there that want to figure out how they can have either similar conversations or more interesting conversations about things like orals and proposal
Yeah.
development and leveraging AI effectively. So for those people that want to get a hold of you, how can they find you?
I do have a pretty big presence on LinkedIn. I love staying connected to lots of different groups of people. I do a lot of public speaking and training. And so I'm always happy if anyone needs presentations or trainings. But yeah, reach out to me on LinkedIn. Let's have a conversation. I am always interested in hearing about other people's journeys and what their challenges are. So I would love to connect with anybody that's interested.
Awesome. We'll get that information in the show notes, and I'd love to have you back on the show to talk more about how
That's right.
AI is enabling you during your day-to-day.
That's right. Yeah. And then we have to also check in on conference kids because I'm
Yes.
absolutely here for that too. That sounds amazing. As a solo parent, when I have to go and do work events and things like that, I have all these babysitters and like
Yeah.
kids just sit here and do nothing. But they're always very interested. My kids think what I do is cool and they want to be a part of it. What if there was a way that we could bring kids and involve them in some of these industry events and give them exposure until just networking or even a hands-on project for them? So I think what you're building sounds very cool.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you so much. That's just very validating.
Cheerleader
Perfect.
now.
I love it. All the support we can get. Absolutely. And the support for the show too, folks. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of GovCon Unscripted. Do your part, leave a heart, share it with your friends, subscribe, do all the things, and make sure that this gets into somebody else's ears that needs to hear it. Thanks again, Rebecca. Appreciate it. And I hope you have a great rest of your week.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to this episode of GovCon Unscripted with your host, Chelsea Roberts. Do you have a GovCon story or need guidance in government contracting? Connect with Chelsea on LinkedIn to be a guest on the show or to enhance your business strategy. Don't forget, your network is your net worth. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with your growing GovCon community.